So we got a question from Eric about what the big deal is with competitions and whether or not he needs to compete in order to be considered a legitimate black belt. So he says that he's been training for about 5 years now, and he's had one tournament back when he was a white belt, and he says he didn't enjoy it. Now, he doesn't say what the result was, but if you didn't enjoy it, he goes on to say that he doesn't understand what the big deal is about competitions, because when he tells people he doesn't want to compete, they give him sideways looks, both from the more experienced people and the less experienced people. And again, he has his reasons for not competing, one of which he says, which we'll talk about, is not thinking he's good enough, for one. And again, he says that in order to become a legitimate black belt, which he wants to do, does he have to compete? So Eric, thank you for the question, brother. And we'll get into the part about what the big deal is with competitions first. Well, they're real, right? It's real. It's 100% real. You know when these two people are competing against one another that there are no pulled punches. They're going 100%. And that grabs humans in a very visceral way. It's why we can go to any sort of combat sport, wrestling, MMA, boxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, like kickboxing, and you see something really crazy happen. Someone gets slammed or someone gets punched really hard, whatever, and it makes people stand to their feet. That grabs us on a way that we can't explain, we feel. Right? And so that's real, right? That's 100% real. There's no theoretical about it, which is very important because that keeps jiu-jitsu sharp. Because like in today's age where like how videos can be shared, there's so much BS out there. Like I look at some of these techniques and they're just overly complicated, and to me it looks like someone's just doing them because they want someone to like their page or something, because I'm like, that's not gonna work. Like I've never seen anybody do that in a competition, an MMA fight, anywhere, or even a full roll, even like a really good competitive roll between equals. Never seen it. It's like a theoretical move. Looks cool, and it's about the same to me as like some traditional martial arts that's doing some really crazy spinny kick that we think is BS in the jiu-jitsu world, but that to me it's the same thing. And so I think the jiu-jitsu competitions in this way help keep it sharp, because you get to kind of see what's real. Like, what does it look like to see like jiu-jitsu going 100% against jiu-jitsu? Now, I know that's to say that not everything in jiu-jitsu works in a fight, but again, it's real. There is no theoretical about it. Another thing that I think is really important is that we can appreciate what it took to get to that point to be a winner in jiu-jitsu competitions. Because again, for those of us that have competed, you've experienced all that self-doubt and all that stuff that goes on, all the hard training that it took to get to there, and what it took to get to the top. If you've won, it takes a lot. And so when you see people like competing, especially in the highest level, you don't know what it took because most people aren't world champions, but you can appreciate how hard that was to get there. I can watch someone like play the guitar. I play like this much guitar. But then when I watch a really good guitar player, I sit in awe just looking at him. I'm like, man, that's so impressive. And I can appreciate that, man, that took so long and there was so much hard work that it took to get there. There are no shortcuts to that. And so we can appreciate that. And obviously, again, those are the two big reasons I feel like really grab us, because again, it's just, those are the reasons. I already explained them to you. Don't need to get into them. Now, as far as for you, being a legitimate black belt, you don't need to compete to be a legitimate black belt. You can be a fine black belt without competitions. John Danaher is a good example. I don't believe he's ever competed, and he has a really amazing crop of students. Now, that said, your message, you said that one of the reasons that you are not competing, you have your reasons, one of which was not feeling like you're good enough for them. And if you feel like that, man, I would encourage you, if I was your coach, I would say, you got to compete, man. You got to compete until you conquer that. Because to me, like that was something I experienced when I got into wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I got pushed into these tournaments, both for my teammates and my coaches sometimes, and there are plenty of times where, especially growing up fat and just sort of got picked on a lot, I wasn't confident in here, right? So when I got out there, I had a lot of self-doubt. I would go to the competitions, like stomachs and knots, and I would look across at the tournament. I'd find the guy that was in my division. I'd look at him and be like, man, he's muscular, he's big, he's going to crush me. And then once I would get out there to the match and the ref would commence the competition match, right, I would get out there and I couldn't think anymore. And then it would just go. And a lot of times, the surprising thing was that I did so much better than I ever thought I could. And a lot of times I would win these competitions. And what that kind of told me was like, look, man, there's going to be all these situations, not just on the mat, but off the mat, where I'm not going to feel like I'm good enough for it, right? I'm not going to feel like I'm good enough. But if I just do it anyway and I step out there, sometimes I'll surprise myself. And that was like the sort of the mindset that I take to so much stuff now, because there's plenty of situations that have nothing to do with jiu-jitsu where I'm super nervous, but I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm nervous, like I'm getting ready for a competition. Let's just do it. Boom, right, go. And so that's an important lesson for you to learn. if you haven't already learned that. So you need to conquer that. So I would say that in order to do that, in order to translate who you are in here at your best game and put it out there, you need to compete regularly until you do that. That would be my encouragement to you as a coach, right? Until you get that win and you know what it feels like to be a winner. And this way, at that point, you can say, you know what, I don't want to compete anymore. I've won. I've done that. Been there, done that, I'm going to move on. Or you might end up enjoying it. I've seen lots of my students who say, I don't like competitions. And then they get that taste of winning and they're like, ooh, that was fun. Let me do it again. Because jiu-jitsu competitions take on a whole different aspect or a whole different dynamic once you win at them. Then you start to have more fun with them, The last thing that I would throw into this is if you want to be a black belt someday, I imagine that you probably want to help teach in some way, right? I mean, that's part of being a black belt. You've taken all this information in and now you're helping other people with it. And I think that, especially if you don't want to be a competitor, the teaching is one of the other options you have as a black belt, right? You having experienced more stuff, more nasty stuff, and conquering more of that nasty stuff that you have internally is going to be very valuable to you as a coach someday, right? Because your job as a black belt who might help someone else or who might help coach at some point is to fill your cup up so much that you can start to pour it out for everybody else. Because that's what you're doing. You're basically giving yourself to other people. And so if you don't have anything to give them, well then you're not going to be that useful. So one of the things that you can do is conquer this. So this way, when you have students that come in later on that say, hey, Coach Eric, man, I'm having trouble with this particular problem, where I'm wanting to compete, but I don't feel like I'm good enough. I really, really want to compete. Can you help me with that? You'll say, you know what? I was there. I know exactly what that feels like. Let me show you what I did and help them conquer that problem, right? I mean, that's kind of what I do through these videos. I'm basically a lot of times share with you guys the stuff that I had to go through. And again, it's been very valuable for me to go through all those things. Even though they were nasty at the time, I'm glad that I did them. And I think that for you, Eric, you'll be very glad that you go out and win a tournament at some point and kind of put that out of the way. I did that, and now I'm going to move on and do whatever else I want to do. So anyway, I'm done rambling with you, Eric. So I hope this helps you, brother, and good luck to you in the future.